Quite a crowd we got here. Pretty big. Like nice and cozy and tight. I talk loud, so if I'm like great, you'll be fine. I promise I won't touch you. I promise. Yeah, she has no idea.
I have no idea. No, plus they made me drink my wine so fast.
That happened Tuesday night too. I'll explain the reason. All right, we ready to go? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. I tried to introduce myself to everybody when they walked in the door, in case you didn't hear or meet me, or actually somebody walked right by me. I'm like, you didn't see a short, fat Italian guy standing in the doorway? And so, my name is John Papa. I'm the president of DPS Advisors. With me are Ted Fiore, he's a financial advisor with us, and my son Luke Papa, he's a financial advisor. We are here tonight to basically educate and empower you so you can make better decisions with your hard-earned money, okay? We've been doing this for a really long time. I'm in this business 39 years. If you were watching the show or listening to it a little bit, I started this practice with my dad back in 1986 when I graduated from Trenton State College. We were a middle-class family in Roseland, New Jersey. I grew up in town, in the next town over. And my dad was a hairdresser at first for most of his life, and then he couldn't do that anymore. So he started selling life insurance. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be a football player in the NFL, but I was 5'10" and 180 pounds, and that dream ended quick at Trenton State College. So I interned at the insurance agency with him, and oh man, this is ridiculous. I hate selling life insurance, but I like investments and things like that. That was kind of my major in college. So I was like, why don't we do this? Let's form a business, a company, and I'll do the investments, you do the insurance, and we went around to companies and set up small little 401ks and things like that, and that's how we started. Started investing people's money, insuring them, and this practice has evolved over 39 years to where we shifted in late 90s, early 2000 to dealing with people who are 50 years old and above and either about to retire or on their way to retirement or are in retirement. That's when we shifted that practice then. It was just me and my dad for all these years. And Susie, you met Susie out there. She's been with us for over 20 years. Ted joined us about a year ago. Luke's been out of college for 2 years. So our practice is specifically designed for the people in this room. With Luke joining the practice, we are starting to deal with children and grandchildren of our clients. People like you. There's different conversations for younger people in the room than there are for older people. So we are expanding our practice a little bit where Luke is going to be handling that. So before we start, a couple housekeeping things. There is a sheet on everyone's table. It's at every place setting. You have one of these sheets. Regardless of whether you're going to take advantage of our offer at the end of the night and come meet with us in a stress-free environment, I need to collect this sheet from every person in this room, because that's my receipt to the IRS. Okay, so regardless of what you're doing, if you can take a minute right now, put your name, your information on the top, and you can fill the rest of it out as we go along, okay?
So not one per couple.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. If you're a couple, one per couple is good. If you're single, you need to fill the form out, okay? We have a pretty packed room, okay? We don't normally have it this crowded, so we normally do a question and answer kind of thing while we're doing our presentation, but tonight we're not going to do that, okay? We're not going to get through this. You want to eat at 7:30 and so do I. So we'll be here for questions throughout dinner and afterwards. So we're going to go through our material. If there is a second to ask a question, I'll maybe say, hey, you guys understand it? You have a quick question? Maybe answer one, and we'll move on to the next topic, okay? If you can turn your cell phones off, I put mine on vibrate. I know we're all addicted to our phones. Just please turn. You say that message every time, and sure enough, Tuesday night, some guy's phone went off. I'm like, buddy, put it on silent if you can, so we don't interrupt everybody, okay? You see your music?
Yeah, just turn it left.
I went off. There you go.
Over here, Alexa, can you turn that music off?
Yeah. Okay. Everybody can hear me? I'm talking loud enough? Everybody can hear? Okay. So, this is a compliance thing. You probably can't read the script. In fact, I know you can't read the script, but it's got to be up there for like 30 seconds so I can tell the SEC that I put up a disclaimer that we're not selling anything tonight. We're not giving financial advice out tonight. And you're not making decisions about anything that we said from tonight's meeting. That will happen if we meet together and move forward in our relationship. So that's our compliance screen. So, why'd you accept the invitation? I just gave a history of I'm not going to play that video. I just gave that right now. So I said you have 39 years of experience, right? It's not like we just have our little office in Roseland and we're in a little cocoon, okay? I've been on Fox Business, a show on every Sunday called The Wealth Council. It's on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They bring advisors in from across the country and talk about topics related to people who are about to retire or are in retirement. What should they be doing with their money? How to create income? How do we invest market volatility with what's going on in the markets? How do I create income? How do I pass on my assets to my heirs? Things like that. So I've been a guest on that show. I've been a guest on CNBC, a show called The Worldwide Exchange that was broadcast in 90 countries about retirement planning. And I was the guest expert to talk about what do people who are 55 years old and above doing with their money. So I was on that show. I've been interviewed on MSNBC. The show you were watching before, if you were watching that, is a show called The Papa Report. That is on New Jersey 12 Network every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Rebroadcast at 6:30 after the news, if you have New Jersey 12 Network. We just started about a month or two ago. Every other Sunday, that show is broadcast on WPIX, Channel 11, CW11. So that's pretty cool. We get a lot of calls off the CW11 shows. Every Sunday, 2 o'clock, I have a show called The Papa Report. It's a radio show. It's on WOR 710. It's an hour-long show that I have a little studio in my office. I record it every Monday morning. I'm recording the show, and it's broadcast out on Sundays. So we're around. We do these live events, typically in restaurants and or public libraries. We call them a retirement masterclass. We use Yogi Berra's Museum, Roseland Library, Parsippany Library, Milburn, all over the place, just educating and empowering people so they can make a better decision with their hard-earned money. You're not going to be sold one thing tonight. I promise you that, okay? You're going to get a great meal, and you're going to get an education. And then afterwards, if you want to come in and take us up on our offer as a stress-free environment, we're not selling anything, just come in. Why'd you come? I know the food's good here, but hopefully it was more about, the information you received. Okay? 39 years as a licensed fiduciary. Has anybody heard of that term fiduciary? What's a fiduciary? Do you know what it is?
Take clients' interests as number one.
Over your own at all times, right? I'm going to give you an analogy. Everybody knows Home Depot, right? So let's say your big box firm broker, you needed a hammer, a hammer to hang a picture in your house. And your big box firm broker guy, girl, sells you a 20-pound hammer. You asked for a hammer, they sold you a hammer. That's a suitable recommendation. That person's fine. As a fiduciary, we're Home Depot. I got to bring you to the aisle where all the hammers are, and I got to ask you some questions. Say, hey, listen, I have a 2-pound hammer, I have a 5-ounce hammer, I have a sledgehammer. How's your health? Any heart conditions I need to know about? Do you have any orthopedic issues? Do you have any cancer, any illnesses that I need to know about to find out what hammer actually is right for you? That's the fiduciary standard of care for a client. Okay, so if you came in and asked for a 20-pound hammer and I sold you one and then you complained to the SEC about it, I'm probably getting fined for that. Okay, so for the fiduciary standard is here. If you learn one thing tonight at this event, you should be working and you deserve to be working with a licensed fiduciary. Okay, and I don't care if your advisor says they are. If they say they are, you ask them the next question. Which one are you? Because it's only two. Certified Financial Planner, CFP, or a Registered Investment Advisor, RIA. The three of us are registered investment advisors. My firm is sanctioned by the SEC and FINRA, and I'm registered with them as well. Our ADV Part 2s are on our website. We send them out to our clients on an annual basis, and any new potential clients get them before they become a client. Okay, so we're licensed fiduciaries. If you get one thing, is you gotta be working with a fiduciary. Okay, I already gave you the pop-up report when it's on. I also wrote a book called the Avoiding the Retirement Traps, 7 Mistakes that Retirees Make with Their Money. We wrote that about 15 years ago, geared towards people 55 and above. I'm in the middle of writing another book called The Intelligent Investor, because most people in this room have a lot of their money in tax-deferred accounts. I want to get the message out to the younger people that you probably might not want to do that anymore, okay, because where taxes are going to be going. So we start this new book about halfway done, starting from when you first got a job. What am I supposed to be doing with my money? How am I supposed to be investing? Am I supposed to put my money in a 401k or a Roth 401k? And we talk about that. So that book hopefully be coming out at the end of the summer, maybe. We've been kind of busy at work, so it's hard to write and do that. So author of a book, radio show, TV show, been on all kind of networks. So we're not just some little outfit in a little corner in Roseland. You know, I go all over the country. I'm on the advisory panel of Foundations Investment Advisors, which is a $10 billion registered investment advisor. I'm one of the 10 advisors that give insight onto what kind of products, what kind of things should we be talking about to clients. So it's, I'm pretty excited about that. We do that, meet once a quarter for that. So what did we talk about? We're gonna have a few topics tonight. Social Security is big on everybody's mind right now. We're going to talk about taxes on qualified plans, meaning tax-deferred accounts, 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, 457s. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll finish up with, you know, how do you invest in the markets when you're in retirement with the market volatility that's going on around here? Those are three, that's what we put on the invitation. So we're pretty good? We're good with that? Okay, so we're going to split this up. You're not going to hear me talking all night. Ted's going to come up now. The first topic's going to be about Social Security, okay? Is everybody okay? We're ready to go? Okay. Here we go.
Thank you, John, and again, welcome everyone. John said I've been with the firm for about a year now. I've been in financial services for over 30 years. So I'm the new guy to the firm, and I'm the one that they asked to talk about Social Security. And John asks me to do that within 5 to 10 minutes, which, you know, you understand that there are 2,700 rules that govern Social Security, and the Social Security Administration itself in 2018 conducted a study, and they discovered that there are over 9,000 different ways that a married couple can file for Social Security. So I'm going to talk about 2,700 rules and 9,000 ways to file in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So here we go.
You got 10.
I got 10. Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
It's a hard 10.
I'm getting a hard 10.
Hard 10.
All right, so a little bit of history, right?
She's hungry.
We say everything, right? There's 2,700 rules, 9,000 ways to file. But really, when it comes to Social Security, there are 2 things that people are concerned about, 2 questions they have. The first one is, will it be there for me when I need it? And the answer is yes, but. The second question is, when is the best time for me to file for Social Security? The answer to that one is, it depends. So we have yes, but, and we have it depends. So there's a lot of solid information you're going to get today with those answers. Little history lesson, right? Social Security was enacted literally 90 years ago in 1935 by FDR. At that time, they just chose 65 as the full retirement age, right? 65, they figured 60 was too early and 70 was a little bit too late. They picked 65 and said, that's what we're going to go with. However, in 1935, can anybody guess what the average life expectancy was?
45.
59. Not a bad guess. So full retirement age was 65. The average life expectancy was 59. Do the math there, right? They thought there were going to be a lot of people just paying into this system that were never going to collect on it. All right, here we are 90 years later. All they've done is they've increased the full retirement age from 65 to either 66 or 67, right? So 90 years later, they've increased the full retirement age by 1 or 2 years. However, The average life expectancy now for men is 74 years old, for women it's 77 years old. So people are living a lot longer than they did 90 years ago. And here's the good news, right? For everybody that's in this room, right? We're kind of a homogeneous group. We're all in the same age range. John's a lot older than I am, and he always will be. But except for this young lady and Luke, right, we're all around the same age. The fact that we're actually all here together tonight means that on average, we can expect to live to 85 years old, all right? What you want to make sure of in retirement is that your standard of living is no lower than it is while you're working, right? And that's why John was saying to work with a fiduciary who puts your interests into account. If you look there, right, there's a, what's that?
Either screen.
Yeah, either screen, Social Security wage tax, right? You'll see 2025 is $176,000. What that means is that if you make above that amount, for Social Security purposes, if you looked at your paycheck and you see Social Security tax or FICA, everyone always wonders, who's this FICA guy that I'm paying 6.25% of my income to? That's the money that goes directly into the Social Security Trust Fund, right? 6.25% of your pay goes to Social Security. And it's a pay-as-you-go system. So I've been paying into it for 30 years, right? They're not holding my money for me. When I retire and collect Social Security, Ted Fiore doesn't get all his money back, right? I'm paying into it for the people who are collecting it. We're at a point in time now, 70 million people collected Social Security last year in the United States. There are now more people collecting Social Security, taking out of that trust fund, than are people paying into the trust fund. So you may have heard that Social Security is going bankrupt, right? What that really means is potentially by the year 2035 to 2037, depending on who you listen to, the trust fund itself could be fully depleted, right? All of the money that's been building up for 90 years is going to be gone. However, there are still people who are going to be working and paying into the system. So if Congress doesn't do anything doesn't enact any new rules to protect Social Security, what's going to happen is for the people, like the younger people, they're going to get about 80% of what they would have gotten had the trust fund not run out. So the money's still going into the system. I read a statistic the other day, by 2034, for the first time in the United States, there are going to be more people in retirement age who are 65 and older than 18 and younger, right? With Generation X, baby boomers, Generation Y, all of those people are going to be retired, all right? So Congress can increase that Social Security wage tax. You'll see it went from 168 to 176. That cap means that if you earn $200,000, if you earn $500,000, if you earn $1 million, for the purposes of Social Security, they're only going to tax you up to that amount of $176,000. Above that, there's no Social Security paid out of that. Okay, so they can easily continue to increase that. What they could potentially do is, since people are living longer, is just raise the full retirement age from 66 or 67 to a higher number, up to 70. Who knows where they could go? Now, it's really in every politician's goal is to get reelected. Now, if you have a term limit, it's at least to get your party reelected. So we don't think it's in the best interest of either party, depending on what your politics are, to do away with Social Security or not work to preserve it for everybody who's been paying into the system. Hopefully you understand that the way it works is if they call it credits. So you essentially have to work 10 full years, 4 quarters for those 10 years, 40 credits to qualify to collect Social Security that you've been paying into. All right, so that's really the concern is, will it be there for me? That's kind of an explanation of, yes, it will be. Congress hopefully will take some action to preserve the entire amount. So then the next question, right? When can I file? And the answer to that one is It depends, right? Everybody in this situation, in this room, is in a different situation. You're all unique. It is not a one-size-fits-all solution, Social Security. It's one size fits one, right? Although we may look alike, right? They call us the sandwich generation, if anybody's heard that term. There's a lot of people in this room who are potentially, whether it's financially or emotionally, taking care of parents. At the same time, we may be taking care of children financially and emotionally. So we're kind of sandwiched in between, right? So everybody's situation: are you married? Are you divorced? Are you divorced for more than 10 years? Is it the husband that makes more money? Is it the wife that makes more money, right? Who's going to be able to collect more at the retirement age? So you can collect at age 62. That's when you can first collect Social Security. For retirement age, again, is 66 or 67, depending on when you were born. And then the maximum age is 70. There is no benefit to anybody in this room to wait until after you're 70 years old to collect Social Security. I'm going to explain to you why. You'll see up here on the screen, if you collect at 62, you're going to get about 75% of what you would have gotten had you waited to your own full retirement age. Your full retirement age is 100%. And you can go to ssa.gov to see, if you go there, you'll get an idea of what your Social Security is going to look like at different ages. However, if you wait to age 70, you're going to get 132% of what you would have gotten had you collected at your full retirement age. There's something that's called deferred retirement credits, or DRC. Between the full retirement age of 66 or 67 and 70, they actually kind of give you a bonus of 8% per year for waiting until you're age 70. So that could be a significant increase for a lot of people. One thing to talk about, is it's a kind of a strange thing for financial advisors to tell you, but go talk to your doctor, right? Who knows your health better than you and your doctor? Your physician, right? If you have longevity in your family. My parents are both alive. They're both 85 years old. I had 93, right? My grandfather lived to 95, so I can expect, in my situation, longevity, right? Everybody's different, but I talk to my doctor frequently, so I have an idea, right? If, for whatever reason, there's something from a health perspective that you don't think you're going to live very long, well, then you might want to file earlier, right? But if you can wait, we're going to show you just purely mathematical what the difference can be over the course of time, how much of a difference it could make for you to wait until you're either full retirement age or 70 years old. If we can go to that next screen, John. Again, this is purely math, right? We're not taking into account any other factors than we have a standard or normal couple that you could see nowadays, right? We have the husband is a few years older than the wife. We have Ron and Nancy. All right, Ron is 60, Nancy's 58. We're going to give them the life expectancy for Ron. He's still alive at 60, is 85. For Nancy, we all know that women live longer. There's a debate as to why that is. We can talk about that. But women live longer.
At dinner.
Right? Yeah, at dinner, not now. So Nancy is going to be expected to live to 90. Okay? If they both take their Social Security benefits at the age of 62, you'll see the cumulative value is about $1.6 million. But if they take them at the full retirement age of 67 for both of them, the cumulative value of the benefit is $1.9 million. So there's, over about a $300,000 difference for the both of them. If they both live, if Ron lives to 85 in each scenario, Nancy lives to 90 in each scenario, there's about $300,000 difference if they wait. God bless you. Now, if they wait till they're 70, if both of them wait till they're 70, again, Ron lives to 85, Nancy lives to 90, because their monthly benefit is going to be so highly impacted by those deferred retirement credits, they're going to collect together $2,126,000. So that's a difference of about $400,000 from age 62, a couple of $100,000 from age 67, purely mathematical. So it's something to think about. There is kind of an inflection point or a point of no return where at the age of about 78 or 79, where those much higher monthly benefits are going to start paying off for you in a big way if you can wait. All right, again, talk to your doctor, talk to your financial advisor. Everyone's situation is unique. What you want to make sure is that your life in retirement your standard of living is no lower than it is when you're working. It was only meant to be 40% of somebody's retirement income. However, statistics are showing now women are living into their 85, 90 years old. 40% of women are relying 100% on Social Security as their retirement, and 30% of married couples are relying 100% on Social Security. So, it's something to talk about, see if there's anything that you can do to impact your income, what you have, and how Social Security can be best utilized for your situation. All right, I think I'm under 10. Was I under 10?
Yeah.
Good, a little bit over.
Almost pulled out something that was gonna cause a riot here, but it's all right. Women live longer, we don't know
We
why.
don't know why, I think we know why.
That's good, that's good.
Yeah. So, listen, we like to have fun with this stuff, it's a serious. I'm sorry?
I like that 40% figure. It was intended to be 40%. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe
Just real
could you
quick,
cover if you apply at 71? Is there a penalty?
No penalty, but you're not getting the
They don't get that
benefit.
phone.
70 is a hard 70, turn it on.
I say.
Turn it on at 70.
Got it.
Sorry, do you have questions?
What COLA did you use to calculate the cumulative benefits?
So the cost of living adjustment?
Is what the average on
Yeah, it's about
Social Security,
2.5 right now.
2.5.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you meant by the 2.5%.
It goes up every
I got
year,
you.
and it changes depending on the consumer price
You
index.
use what's predicted.
That's right, that's right.
That's fine.
Okay?
Thank you.
One thing we get all the time, if you jot your question down.
Of course.
And I'll come around and answer it. But
We'll get to every question.
Yeah, we will, by the end of the night.
All right.
One question that we get when people come into our office is, hey, I'm not full retirement age yet.
Yeah.
I'm 63 years old, I'm still working, can I collect my benefit now? The answer is yes, but you get penalized. It's a dollar amount, I believe it's $25,000 if you, as a single person. If you make more than that and you're collecting Social Security, they're gonna subtract, for every dollar you earn, they're gonna subtract $2 off the benefit. So if you're working and you're younger than full retirement age, 66, 67, and you should probably not turn it on if you can afford not to. You should not turn it on, okay? Once you hit 66, 67, your full retirement age, like Teddy explained, you can make $1 billion and it doesn't matter, okay? So you can make as much money as you want at 68 years old, turn it on and still collect, okay? But if you make $1 billion, I would probably wait till 70 as well, because you're gonna get the 8% increase. Who's giving 8% guarantees out today, right? Nobody. So that's Social Security. You have a question, jot it down. We're gonna be coming around and we'll move on. We'll move on to the next topic, okay? This is the one that I do, and it's a pretty interesting topic because.
Because you do it?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I do it. And I look younger than him, right? I am older by a year, but I'm definitely young. I definitely look younger. How many people in this room, first of all, are there any CPAs in the room who do individual tax returns for clients in this room right now? Are there any CPAs? Because you look like a CPA, I was just asking. You look like No, good, because I'm gonna say some things tonight that CPAs might not agree with, and sometimes we get in a little bit of an argument, okay? How many people in this room have a tax deferred account? IRA, 401k, 403b, 457. You put your money away for a really long time, you paid no taxes, you tax deferred it till later on, and now either you're older enough where you're taking the money out of it now, or you're not there yet and you're wondering, how the heck am I getting all this money out of this account without paying taxes? As the most amount of taxes, right? We were brainwashed. I said to you earlier today when I started this company with my dad, we were going around the small businesses and putting in these 401k plans thinking, we're gonna send the message out. You save for retirement. tax defer, pay it on later, because you're gonna be in a lower tax bracket later on. Anybody ever heard that? You heard that statement? Okay, that's turned out to be false, right? I've met with thousands of people in the last 20 years. I can count on my one hand how many people are in a lower bracket in retirement than they are, than they were when they were working, right? Our country is 37 trillion, almost $37 trillion in debt. United States government, right? I think they said the interest alone on our debt's like $1 trillion. It's crazy. Our country doesn't make any products to sell for profit, right? They only can raise revenue from taxes. So if there's all this money sitting in tax deferred accounts, and let me ask you one other question. How much money do you think right now is sitting in tax deferred accounts that's never been taxed? Just throw some numbers out.
10 trillion.
$40 trillion is sitting in tax deferred accounts. So everybody raised their hand, right? You all have that, right? You all have a tax deferred account, right? You guys and gals are walking around with a bullseye on your back because what did Ted say? Politicians' number one job is to get reelected, right? So if they went to a middle class, lower income person and said, hey, we're gonna tax your income that you make from work, do you think that politician's gonna get reelected? Absolutely not. But if that politician goes out and says, hey, we're gonna tax the rich, the people with the 401ks, the IRAs, the 403bs, we're gonna add more taxes to them to cut the deficit. You think that politician will have a problem getting reelected? Absolutely not. Because the people with the tax deferred accounts right here are the ones who are gonna pay, okay? I asked about accountants in the room. How many people in the room meet with their accountant in June, July, August to try and figure out how we can make next year's taxes better than they were last year? It's pretty much the scenario you do? Okay, one, perfect. Two, perfect. Most people meet with their accountant in January, give them all their stuff. They don't even have to meet them again. They e-file now, and I'll see you next January, right? And you get your tax return, whether you're gonna get a refund or not. They're not doing tax planning. They're basically doing tax preparing. And you can get that at H&R Block, right? There's two people in the room that actually meet with their accountants later on in the year to figure out, how can I make my tax plan better for next year? How many people have, you all raise your hands with 403Bs and 401Ks and IRAs, how many people have sat down with their financial advisor and said, okay, I have this big pot of money that's got a bullseye on it. What are some strategies that I can use to get the money out of there and pay the least amount of taxes? Who meets with their financial advisor and does that? 2, 3, 4. What are you guys doing here? You came for steak?
I eat steak.
Good. You wanted to see, did you see the picture on the invitation you saw and you wanted to come see? No, so there's not many people that do that, because everybody's brainwashed into thinking tax deferring is the way to go, okay? And we're gonna show you some numbers, and we think it's so important, we built a website. So everybody here who raised their hand should go to this website, dpstaxbill.com. And you figure out what your numbers are and what taxes you're gonna pay. You can play around, you put some information in, name, age, how much you have in those tax deferred accounts, play around with the tax rate, play around with the earnings on the account, and you'll see, it'll calculate what your tax bill is gonna be, okay? Where do we think tax rates are going?
Higher.
Higher, right? So if my account that we have is a tax deferred account, isn't common sense say that if I'm gonna defer my taxes, do I want to defer to later on when we are all in agreement, and so are CPAs and lawyers, tax rates are going to be higher later on? Why would I tax defer my account longer to later to be in a higher rate? Why would we do that? People ask me all the time, when should I take money out of my IRA 401k? I'm like, now.
Yes.
Yesterday. Is that what you said? Yeah, yesterday. Don't wait. What are we waiting for? What are we deferring to? Deferring to when the Congress changes the tax code and makes, who remembers in the late 80s, when I first started in this business, if you took money out of your IRA or 401k, you paid federal taxes, state taxes, and there was an excise tax. Everybody remember that? Congress did away with it in the early 90s. Stroke of a pen. We're $40 trillion in assets, in tax deferred, $37 trillion in debt, stroke of a pen. We're going to raise the taxes on 401ks and IRAs. That can happen. So why would we defer into an unknown, right? Ronald Reagan, one of the best presidents, regardless of what party you like, that we've ever had. You guys heard of Ronald Reagan?
Yeah.
You know what he was before he was a president? He was an actor.
Well, wasn't he Carter was a speaker?
Well, before that, he was a governor, yeah. So, I'm not telling for, Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer, you're right. So, but that's not relevant to the story. So, Ronald Reagan in the 40s made a movie and made $1 million. He was paid $1 million in the 40s. Want to know what his tax rate was? And it was like 1943 or something like that. 90%. He paid $900,000 on $1 million salary to make a movie. So you don't think tax rates are going to be going up when we're $40 trillion in debt? We're in the lowest tax rate environment we're ever going to be in right now. So now's the time that you should start doing tax planning on these tax deferred accounts. And why, John, why are you saying that? So if you go to dpstaxbill.com, plug in the numbers, I'm going to read you a scenario on a case that we're actually working on right now. We see this all the time. 65-year-old person with $500,000 sitting in a 401k IRA. Is that out of the question? And we live up here in North Jersey, pretty much, that's normal, right? That's not crazy, right? That person's got 8 years to go before RMDs kick in at 73. You guys know what RMDs are? Required minimum distributions. For most of our working lives, that age was 70 and a half, right? 2 years ago, they moved it to 72. Now it's 73. In 2035, it's going to 75. Because we're living longer, like Ted was explaining, we're living longer. So they're raising the RMD, to longer, because they want the money to grow a little bit more so they can take more taxes out later. So he has, this person has 8 years to go. And let's say they do nothing, because that's one of your options, right? We think tax rates are going higher. What are your options? Well, we could do nothing and just play the game the IRS says. And let's play this out. And this is what you're going to get on dpstaxbill.com. At 73 years old, that IRA that was at 65 was $500,000, and we put a 7% earnings rate. Is that crazy today? Money markets are paying 4.5%. If you're a financial advisor, can't get you a 7% return today, you should fire that advisor. That was a joke. So we like to fool around with this stuff. So at 73 years old, that IRA is now worth $860,000. And now the RMD kicks in. Now, regardless of whether you need the money or want the money, you have to pull it out. And that first year's required minimum distribution is $35,000 that you have to take, add it to your tax return, and pay taxes on it. And if you live to 90, like Ted was saying, if you live to age 90, that person would have taken out over that 17-year period $1.1 million in distributions that are taxed to them. And we're not going to change tax brackets. We're going to say 24% tax bracket. Is that fair? Say 24% tax bracket over the next 17 years average. He would have paid $265,000 in income taxes on that $1.1 million of distributions. First year's $35,000, second year's $37,000, third year's $40,000, and it increases every year. So you add up all the distributions, 24% tax rate, he pays $265,000. But the story doesn't end, because at 90 years old, there's still $1 million left in that IRA. And the IRS knows that. And where's that going? That's going to your kids and grandkids or whoever you name as a beneficiary. So now they receive that money. Let's say you have 2 kids, and they receive $500,000 apiece. They don't put that money in their own IRA. They got to open up a beneficiary IRA because it came from a parent or somebody else. The rules are different. You have to take the money out of that beneficiary IRA in a 10-year period. So if I'm If I'm a 40-year-old person, my parents pass away, I have that $1 million IRA, I have to declare, and I'm a sole only child, I have to take out $100,000 a year for 10 years to deplete the IRA, and I have to add that income to my tax return when I'm probably in the prime earnings years in my life. Okay? The taxes to the child, 30% tax bracket, is that crazy? In the next 20, 30 years, the child will pay in a 30% rate. That child's gonna pay $309,000 in taxes on that 10 years worth of distributions. So that IRA that you had at 65 years old, that was worth $500,000, the IRS will take $573,000 in taxes on that IRA. Who was the three people that they do tax planning with their accountants? Have you ever gone over those numbers? So are you really doing tax planning with your accountant, or are we just having a cup of coffee? That's a joke, that's a joke. Are they talking to you about that? What do you do? How do we make that better? So what if I can show you where you can take the same amount of income out of your IRA and then pass on the same amount of money to your child, but now you only have to pay $150,000 in taxes. So I would sit with you in my conference room, I'd run your numbers, go over maybe some options of what we could do, and say, okay, option number 1, 573, option number 2, 150. Which one are you gonna take?
Lower one.
Right. Who's doing conversion work right now? There might be a couple of people doing conversion work. Why isn't everybody? You all have an accountant, you all have a financial advisor. Why aren't every person in this room looking at what are my options, tax planning options, to make the taxes that me and my family are gonna pay to the IRS? Why aren't we doing tax planning? We do it every day. Every day in our office, clients come in from events like this, from the radio show, TV show, our public library events, talking about taxes, educating and empowering people so they can make better decisions with their hard-earned money. Okay? So, everybody should be putting money up, putting that down as, yeah, you know what? I need to come in and talk to you guys about how do we make this thing better? Because the IRS has a plan for you. So you can either do nothing and pay $573, pay some taxes now on doing some conversion work or using life insurance or whatever your situation is. There are tools out there. My job as your fiduciary is to introduce every financial tool that you can use. That it's your choice to decide which one you want to do. Because I bring up the word life insurance, not to say that I'm here to sell you guys life insurance, but that's a tool if you want to pass on assets to your kids. I have a couple, both retired teachers, but teachers have great pensions, and that gives them all kind of options, right? I have teachers retired who have 403Bs, don't need the money, don't ever want it. We took out, they were both healthy, fit, they were gym teachers, they're better shape than I am. We took out, I think it was almost a $4 million life insurance policy, let the IRA pay for it, so that when they die, instead of them paying millions of dollars in taxes, their kids are gonna get $5.5 million of tax-free death benefit. It's a financial tool that needs to be looked at. I'm not saying it's for everybody, we're not selling life insurance, but my job as your fiduciary advisor is to say, let's go down the aisle of how do we decrease taxes on my 401k, and here are all the options, the pros and cons of every one of them. And you decide what's best for you. If you're not doing that with your current advisor or your current accountant, then you need to come in to see DPS Advisor in a stress-free environment, and we'll show you the stuff that we do every day. That's what I talk about on my TV show, radio show, CNBC, Fox Business. That's what we talk about every day. If you're over 65 years old, you have to pay Medicare, right? We have to take it. How are the premiums on Medicare determined?
Income.
Thank you. However much income you earn determines how much you pay for Medicare. So if your account is a tax-deferred account and you're taking income out of that tax-deferred account, isn't there a reasonable chance that you're going to have to pay higher Medicare premiums because you're adding income to your account, to your income tax return every year? Well, what if your income in retirement was tax-free and it's the same amount, but it's not reportable? Fairly good chance your Medicare premiums might not rise because you're not adding 40 grand a year in taxable income? Or how about adding that $1 million, passing on that $1 million to your kids and they don't have to pay taxes? They're still to take it out over a 10-year period, but they don't have to pay a dime in taxes. How about that? That sound better? That's what we do every day. I'll spend a little bit of time on inflation. Inflation a couple years ago was out of control and at numbers that were unrealistic. And thankfully, they're coming down a little bit. But I think they reported the other day inflationary rates now are like 3% or something like that. A little over 3. I don't know. To me, that's a lie too. Who thinks inflation is 3%? You come to this place in the state, the prices are crazy. You go to fill up your car with gas, prices are crazy. Eggs are still crazy. Food's crazy. I think inflation's more closer to double digits than they're telling us, because that number they give us, they take out housing, they take out energy. So it's like a made up number. So if inflation is really closer to double digits, then it really affects the people in this room, because once you retire and stop working, you have to fend for yourself for income, whether it's going to be Social Security, like Ted said, or if you're lucky enough to have a pension, or you're going to use assets or rental income. Your expenses will double every 8 years. If inflation's at a 6% rate, your expenses will double. If we're living longer and living 25 years in retirement, your expenses, let's say you are paying $4,000 a month in expenses. 8 years later, they're going to $8,000 a month. 8 years after that, they're going to $16,000 a month, based just on inflation. You live to the third part of it, it's $32,000 a month. I mean, granted, at that age, you're probably not spending what you're spending that you were, but you get the idea. If you're not factoring in or creating a rising income stream in retirement, using multiple buckets of money to create income for now, income 5 years from now, income 10 years from now. We do that every day. That's what we do. If you're not building a rising income stream plan for you, you're going to be pinched when inflation eats away at what income. If your income is set and it's barely going up by a 2.5% rate, 5-10 years from now, you could be in a little bit of an issue. So you have to factor that in. People come in our office all the time. What's your inflation plan? What are you talking about? Like, don't even recognize inflation, right? And so we, again, educate and empower people so they can make a better decision with their hard-earned money. So, inflation is the hidden tax. We kind of know that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about market volatility. And if you have any questions about taxes on qualified plans, you can just throw it in a little bit. You're skinny, you get through there. Any questions about tax qualified plans or anything like that, jot it down in your notes. I'm going to walk around, throughout dinner and I'll answer any questions you have, okay? That was pretty good, right?
All right, let me go.
Go ahead.
There you go. Market volatility and how it can affect you guys in retirement or as you're approaching retirement. Investing in retirement is completely different than investing while you're working. When you're working and you're receiving an income, you can afford to be aggressive with your investments, and you should be. When you're getting closer to retirement and you're about 5 years out, that's when you want to start shifting to a more conservative portfolio. Because once you're in retirement, you really need to worry about market volatility, because you can't afford to take a loss in the market and having to take money out of your IRA and RMD. Once you're 73 and RMDs are due, and if you haven't done any Roth conversions, that RMD doesn't care if the stock market is down, and you still got to take money out by December 31st. So let's look at an example of how a loss could affect you. If you lose 10% in your portfolio, it's going to take you 3.6 years at a 3% return to get back to even. At a 6% return, it's going to take almost 2 years. In 2022, both stocks and bonds were down. Has everyone here heard of the 60-40 balanced portfolio? 60% stocks, 40% bonds? Well, that portfolio was down 25% in 2022 because the concept that stocks and bonds have an inverse relationship is a lie. Bonds are affected by interest rates. In 2022, Federal Reserve started raising interest rates, bond values went down, and that 60-40 balanced portfolio got crushed. So you think you're balanced, but then you take a 25% loss and you're looking at your portfolio and your advisor and what's going on here. So they do not have an inverse relationship. If you lose 20% and you're now a conservative investor because you're in retirement, it's going to take you 7.5 years at a 3% return to get back to even. With the RMD being taken out on top of that, it's going to be impossible to do. I want to show you guys another chart on the next slide.
Go to the next one.
Yeah, yep. If you start with $100,000 and you lose 10%, that leaves you with $90,000, and you need an 11.1% return to get back to $100,000. You may think, because you lost 10%, that a 10% gain will get you back to even. It's not how it works, unfortunately. If you lose 25%, that leaves you with $75,000, and you need a 33.3% return to get back to $100,000, which means you'd have to take a crazy amount of risk to get that kind of return. So you just really need to watch out for market volatility when you're in retirement or as you're approaching retirement. And there's just one more chart I want you guys to have a look at. This chart is showing a million.
We'll go to the numbers. It's hard to see, but he'll go over the numbers.
This chart's showing $1 million IRA from 2000 to 2009 with 4% distributions being taken out and sustaining market loss. At the end of the period, the person is left with $480,000. So what happens if you live 25 to 30 years in retirement? Because, like we said before, people are only living longer nowadays. So your investment philosophy in retirement needs to be completely different than your philosophy while you were working. It's got to change.
Good job, buddy.
So why is it important to people in this room, right? When you're younger, like you and him, you want market volatility because you're building your portfolios, you're contributing to your 401k, you're building those portfolios up. Market goes down, you're buying more shares with your contributions, right? Well, when you're in retirement, it's the complete opposite. You're taking money out of the account. So let's use that example. $1 million IRA on December 31st, 2021. You guys know when the IRS calculates how much you got to take out of your IRA? It's your year-end value the year before. So on December 31st, you had $1 million in that IRA. IRS says, okay, you're 73 years old in 2023, you have to pull out $40,000. It's about 4% the first year is the RMD calculation, right? You have to pull out 4%, 40,000 bucks. That year, you're in that 60-40 balanced portfolio because your advisor said bonds are safe. You don't have to worry about them going down. But for the last 15 years prior to 2022, we were in a zero interest rate environment, so bonds were safe, but in reality, they're not because once interest rates move, bond values go up or down. They're a market product, just like stocks. They're not safe. They go up and down just like stocks. So in that portfolio, 2023, you have to take out 40,000, but you just lost in 2022, you lost 25% of your portfolio because your balanced portfolio went down 25%. So your million went to 750. Now you aren't putting more money in, you're taking money out. And now you take 40,000 out for your RMD, you have 710 at the end. Imagine if it was your first year of retirement. You went from $1 million thinking you're set for life. I'll take 40 grand a year forever. I don't have to worry about a thing. In 1 year, you went to 710. And we're living 25 years in retirement. Who said the mother's 95 years old? You hear people are 100 years old. We're living longer. Could you imagine losing almost 30% of your portfolio with the withdrawal because of market volatility? We talk all the time to our clients. What are the tools that we could use to really diversify a portfolio? If you have, whoever it's with, I don't care. If you have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, REITs, hedge funds, anything that comes from somebody from Wall Street, you have risk in your portfolio. There's nothing safe in any of those investments. Not bonds, nothing. Okay? They're not safe. That's not a diversified portfolio. That's just a different type of risk. Stocks have market risk. Bonds have interest rate risk. Everything has geopolitical risk. Mutual funds have fee risk, plus interest rate risk, plus market risk. Every investment in Wall Street has some sort of risk. And we have tools that can measure that risk for somebody. So I would say to you, on that 60-40 balanced portfolio, it will tell me that if the 2008 market crash happened again, that balanced portfolio would be down 23%. Are you okay with that? And if you're not, where do we go? So, every person that comes into our office, we have a 3 investment world discussion. And if you can't read that, don't worry, I'll go over it with you, okay? What we do with clients is we separate your assets. You got to get them all out of, if you're walking around and you have a big box firm statement, Fidelity, Merrill, I'm trying to whisper so it's not on camera. You have all these statements and you think I'm a diversified portfolio, you're not, okay? You come into our office, we're going to say, okay, you need to have your money split up in a bunch of different places. Have some money in a bank for an emergency fund, enough 3 to 6 months of expenses. Have some money in safe money growth investments that can't go down regardless of what the market does. There are banks that do that, money market accounts, insurance companies. There's all kinds of tools that do that. Then have money left in Wall Street, because that's going to be our long-term money. So we were talking about having a rising income stream in retirement. We split your assets up amongst different types of assets and just move through the buckets to create increasing income. So if I know the money I leave in Wall Street, because you need Wall Street, I don't care how old you are, you gotta have some money in Wall Street to combat inflation, to combat rising income streams. So we leave money in the 3rd and 4th buckets that we know we're not touching for 10 years. Not touching this bucket for 15 years. But if all of your money is sitting at Fidelity, Merrill, whatever, in different types of investments, you're all going up and down. You can't survive like that. You're not going to lead a stress-free retirement. When you truly diversify your portfolio, meaning getting some of your money out of Wall Street into protected investments, then you sleep at night and you build your buckets and just take from each bucket as you go along. You sleep at night, we sleep at night. The market has been really good. It's always going to be great. The market always comes back. But as you get older, there's less time to be there for the rebound, and you're not reinvesting as you're going. We're taking funds out. How many people the market started getting volatile October, November of last year, and then the first quarter of this year was pretty crazy. It has turned back around a little bit now, but who was getting nervous in the last 5-6 months with your portfolios, right? Not sleeping at night, right? You want to know how many phone calls? Want to know how many phone calls we got? Maybe 5. I have 325 families I serve as clients. I got 5 calls, and they were fun clients who just had to remind them how we bucketed your assets and you can sleep at night tonight. So 5 phone calls, that's it. Because when you separate your assets, truly diversify your portfolio, you can sleep at night. Isn't that part of retirement? Part of retirement is enjoying your life. You worked your whole life. You let your money work for you. You don't have to have it all in Wall Street to make money and lead a great retirement life. So we have this 3 investment world discussion. So if you raised your hand and said you were nervous in the last 5 or 6 months, or if you were afraid to raise your hand because you think I might call on you or something, you should put that down and say, hey, I want to talk about market volatility and how do I invest as an older person? And we'll talk to you about that, okay? For the younger kids, you be crazy aggressive. Not that we want the markets to go down, but when the markets do go down, you take advantage of that. You buy more, you keep investing, because over time, the markets pay off. That's how everybody in this room built their portfolio. They built their plans with the markets, and that's the best place to be. But once you get to 55, 60 years old, and you're starting to run out of time, or if you're retired, not making more money to put in, then you have to truly diversify your portfolio. And I'm a Wall Street guy. We manage $350 million of client assets. So my money is in Wall Street. We use Schwab and Fidelity as our custodians, but not all of it. Our clients are split up into truly safe money investment options and also Wall Street for growth. All right. We're going to wrap it up by saying, so what do we do now, right? We talked about a few different things. Social Security income, when to turn it on, what's right for you. We talked about taxes on qualified plans. Everybody in this room said they had a tax deferred account, so everybody should be going to dpstaxbill.com. Not many people were doing tax planning, so you should at least be saying, yeah, I want to come in and just review what we're doing. We're offering everybody in this room a free, no obligation, no cost. Our office is in Roseland. Come in, sit down with us for however long it takes, half hour, hour, whatever, however long you want to stay, right? And we'll talk about why'd you come here tonight? Was it really just for the steak and the fish and whatever? If it was, fine. We totally understand that. But if you really came here to learn something, hopefully we said some things tonight, which I think we did because you kind of all reacted. Come in, it's stress-free. And I don't lie, I'm not kidding. You come in your office, we sit down, we have a cup of coffee and talk about, okay, what's going on? You want to talk about tax planning? Let's run your numbers. You want to talk about truly diversifying your portfolio? Let's analyze what you have. It's free. We'll get a free analyzation of your current investments. Bring your statements in, we run it through Morningstar, Riskalyze, Quanti, and you'll get an analysis. And we can pinpoint, with the tools we have today, can pinpoint where there's inefficiencies inside your portfolio. And it's free of charge. There's no obligation. If we do this analysis, you will never get pressure saying, well, we did the analysis, you're not going to become a client? No, that's not going to happen. So with that, we're going to wrap up. We're going to walk around and answer some questions. I want you to enjoy your meal. It's going to be great. This food here is phenomenal. And thank your servers and all that stuff. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. These sheets that I talked about before we started, I have to pick them up from everybody. So now that we've done the presentation, if you can answer whether yes or no, that you would like to meet with us or not, whatever. Sue, Ted, and Luke are going to be outside. We have our schedule here. And I know a lot of people say, well, I don't know what my calendar is, so call me. I hate that game. Make an appointment if you really want to come in. Make an appointment. If you go home tomorrow and that appointment is not good for you, call our office and we'll reschedule it. But our calendar is crazy. Make an appointment and we can always reschedule if it doesn't work for you. So please don't say, my calendar's at home and I'll call you, because that call game, that never works. Is that fair? So I need to pick up all the sheets from everybody. We have to collect them. So with that, thank you very much. Enjoy your meals. We're going to have a great time. Enjoy. The food's great. Thank you so much. Thank you.